it today, especially since I love baseball and I'm terrible at it. So whenever I have a professional athlete, especially a pitcher, come on, I'm excited about it. So, Eric, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, man, Amit, I appreciate you having me on for sure, man. It's been a long time. I feel like, since the retreat, we hadn't been able to kind of interact a little bit. So, but yeah, a little introduction. My name's Eric Hacker. I'm in the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex here in the market here. Yeah, I think Amit touched on baseball there briefly. So, yeah, former baseball player, turned real estate agent, and we can touch on that a little bit. But yeah, man, just three kids. Got three little ones: 6-year-old daughter, a 4-year-old son, and a 10-month-old baby girl. And Mama's got her hands full right now, and I try to help out when I can.
That's awesome. So I'm gonna get into all of that in a bit, but let's talk about baseball. I've always read that to become a professional athlete, you don't just have to be the best of the best. You have to be the best of the best of the best of the best. And the percentage of people that play sports that think they could be a professional athlete, obviously isn't going to happen. If someone were to go to a baseball field and when you were at your prime and just someone off the street tried to hit off you, how would that go?
Well, it would be a lot of fun, I tell you that. I think it would go well because, from the talent level, obviously I would show them a little bit of what it's like to step in the box against a professional pitcher, but I would also try to give them something to hit. So, I would try to throw them soft in there and see if they can get some contact. You got to build their confidence a little bit. You get them excited, you get them, let them feel like they're getting something, and then you just, then you show them a little bit of what it's really like. But yeah, I mean, the being a professional athlete, the percentages are very small. So I'm definitely very blessed that I had that opportunity and the ability to do that. Once you get on the professional level, a lot of guys on the professional level are on the playing skill level. A lot of us are a lot the same. And so you kind of have to find ways to separate yourself, which becomes mentally. And I kind of, you can relate a little bit to real estate, and the percentage in real estate of success is a lot higher than baseball. So even though the failure rate's still, very high in real estate, a lot of people don't last past their first, second year in real estate. And so I like my percentages, and I've enjoyed those challenges in real estate because it's actually it's a little easier. But yeah, I mean, it's been a good transition.
Cool. So I'm sort of selfish, so I'm going to talk about baseball for a while, and then we'll get into real estate.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
even
let's
though
do
we're
it.
friends and stuff, and I know you and all that, I haven't really asked you that many questions about it. I didn't want to come off like this super fan or whatever, even though I'm proud of everything you've accomplished. So when you played sports, okay, I guess first of all, is there anyone else in your family that's an athlete?
No, I mean, there's obviously others that have played, little league and stuff like that. But at the professional level, no, I'm the only one. My brother was very talented. On a skill level, he was probably on the same skill level for me, but that's where you separate yourself on the mental side. He didn't have it mentally compared to myself.
So what did you actually do mentally that specifically that helped you in your opinion?
Yeah, a lot of people naturally have certain things, and I don't know if it's I don't know if cocky is the right word, but you kind of have to have that mentality that you're better than everybody else. And so, but you also have to learn to control that and be a good teammate. You don't show other people up and stuff like that. And it also turns into training yourself to be on your routines and being very consistent to your routines of whatever that routine is, right? And so, it's having that discipline to wake up and go to the gym and eat right and train right and recover and don't abuse your body in all those things, it becomes life, and you have to learn that you are doing this for a purpose. You're doing it to be successful. You're doing it to provide for your family. You're doing it to entertain other people. You're doing it for, your own goals. There's so many things that drive you to be the best. And I tell the people the same thing in real estate. Even being a younger agent in real estate, I mean, I'll have those conversations with agents that have been in the game, been in the real estate game for 20 years, and they're asking me questions about, how they can improve their daily activity and their daily routines. And it really does relate.
Yeah, and I can imagine. I know you were saying not to be cocky, but I think that when someone prepares, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you prepare enough and you know you're doing the right things for your body, you're doing everything in a positive way, it makes you confident, because you put the work in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know that what you're doing every day is leading you towards that success. It's leading you towards that goal that you've accomplished, that you've set out for yourself. Some people are a visual goal. Some people are just they see somebody else do it and they want to be like somebody else, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so, you set yourself out to be, you know, whoever you think you want to be. And so, that's where you learn to drive yourself in these certain ways to set yourself up to be successful.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing that? Did you do that when you were a kid? When did you know you were going to be a professional baseball player, or think that you had a chance of it?
That's a good question. I mean, from as far as I can remember, I started playing when I was 4 years old. I played baseball and football from four, all the way through, and then obviously played professional baseball. And I had always had that goal, that I wanted to be a professional athlete. I wanted to play professional baseball and football, which is, there's not very many people that get that opportunity, let alone just one sport. And so I was always a little different than everybody else. And so, and it always started, my parents would always tell me that when it was game day, and it wasn't always a game day for me, even when it was practice for me, it was all so serious to me. And I took everything like I didn't want to fail at even practice. I didn't want to fail at getting dressed for practice. I can remember even when I was a kid, when you're playing t-ball or flag football and stuff like that, the little kids always play first. So they get the 8 a.m., the 9 a.m. games. And I mean, I was always the first one up in the house. And I mean, even before mom and dad were up, at 4 years old, I was up already dressed, ready to play. And it was always mentally there for me. And so at a very, very young age, I showed signs of being able to separate myself from others.
So where do you think you got all that discipline from?
Hmm. I think a lot of it was just, God given. And I think I knew uh, that I was good at something, but I was never satisfied with where I was at. I always had that drive to want more. And every single day I knew that if I prepared myself, that I was going to be able to get better that day. If there was just one little thing that I was getting better at, it was happening every day. And it didn't even have to be at my skill set. I mean, even if it was, like I said, getting dressed, if I could just look a little bit better that day, I felt if I looked better, I would perform better. And we kind of joke about that in the game sometimes: look good, play good. And I believed in that. And so, I mean, it was every single little thing. I would go out in the backyard as a kid by myself and just spend hours of just throwing the ball against the wall, or throwing the ball in the air and catching it, or picking up the ball and hitting it into the field and chasing it. And I mean, it was always something to make myself better. And it was natural. But I believed that if I just continued, that it was like riding a bike. It's like, as a kid, you fall down and you get back up, and you go a little bit further and you fall down and you get back up. And your brain, you're just constantly training yourself that, oh, wow, I rode 10 feet this time. This time I rode 20 feet. And then next thing you know, you're riding a bike and you're doing wheelies and jumps and all kinds of crazy stuff. So it relates to sports and everything else.
So let's go back a little bit in time. When you were in, I guess, in school, elementary, junior high, senior high, when you played in Little League, were you like always the best player, or were there people that were better than you?
Well, do I have to answer that honestly? I think there was always a small group of kids, two, three, four kids that were always the kids that really stood out that were better than everybody else. And obviously, I was a part of that group of kids that all-star teams and stuff like that. But yeah, I always stood out a little bit compared to most of the others.
Yeah, the reason I ask that is because if someone just stands out way above everyone else, like Michael Jordan or someone else, it makes it harder to do better, right? Because competition usually motivates someone to do better, and without that
Right.
competition, it may be a little bit more difficult in anything in life, I would assume.
Yeah, that's right. That we talk about it a lot in sports is you play to the level of your competition. And I think that's where the self-driven motivation for myself is I was always, even though I was on the same playing field as others, I always found a way to get myself better, and I think that just it always started off the field for me. It wasn't on the field. It was just always that mentality of preparing myself different than everybody else. Is while the others were, and there's nothing wrong with it, but while others were inside, playing a video game or watching TV, I'm out in the back throwing and hitting a baseball or a football or whatever it might have been. And so my skill set was obviously moving faster than others because I was always doing it. So yeah, I
Oh,
mean it grows quick.
cool. So take us back to the time you get contacted, where a professional team wants you to play for them. Take us back to that day.
Uh Man, I don't know if I really knew a day that it really started. I you know what? Wait a minute. I take that back. When I was a sophomore in high school, I remember I played infield. I was a shortstop and I pitched, and I played on a dominant high school team. And as a sophomore, I didn't really pitch much. I played shortstop and I was a hitter. But I pitched in one game as a sophomore in a tournament early in the season, and I pitched really well. And I was already throwing hard at whatever age that is. What's that? 16 years old, I guess. I was already throwing in the 90s at 16, and I remember
Wow.
my high school coach, telling me, I remember him bringing me into the office. He said, "Hey, Eric, like, I just want you to know that, last night there were a couple major league scouts there, and they had you on the radar gun up to like 92 or something." And he said, "I just want you to know that that's special, and that's something that you should be proud of, and you will start to get the attention from these guys. So stay humbled, stay motivated, stay hungry."
That's amazing. It sounds like you had an awesome coach.
I did. I was blessed to play for a very, very, very good high school coach.
That's awesome. So, so again, I'll get off sports in a second, but I want to go a little bit deeper. So your first day in professional baseball, how is that? Or do you notice a huge difference in talent? Is there, or do you still feel like a dominant compared to the others when you were playing?
At 18, 19 years old when it started for me, I didn't know what I was doing, right? I leave home and I jump on this airplane and I fly to Tampa, Florida. I was with the Yankees. I'd fly to Tampa, Florida on an airplane by myself. I Now that I look back on it, that may have been my first time on an airplane too. So I'm on this air, I fly, I'm going to somewhere I've never been before, and I get off and and I mean, just getting to the ballpark for the first day. I mean, you've got everybody looks this like you. Everybody's big and strong. A lot of guys bigger than me because being 6'2" in professional sports, you're just an average Joe. And, and so you get out there and you start throwing the ball and you're moving around and it's like, man, everybody throws hard. Everybody runs fast. Everybody, everybody's kind of the same. And so, yeah, very quickly you get brought down to earth very quickly and realize that, man, you're in a room with a bunch of people that their skill sets just like you. So how are you going to separate yourself?
And is that when you thought mentally you need to do something?
Yeah, I mean, mentally, like I said, I was always already a little different than most of the others. Even the guys that their skill sets were special, I still on a mental side was always very disciplined. And, I didn't care to go out and drink and do those things and stay up all night and party. That stuff just didn't have interest in me. And so my mindset and my motivation was one thing, right? And it was to be successful at what I was doing. And is there anything wrong with those other things, partying and drinking and having a good time? Absolutely not. I love to have a good time. But I knew the right time and there was times for it and times not for it. And so I was always like, first guy at the ballpark. I'm working harder than everybody else in the weight room, and I'm running harder than everybody else. And it was just there, and I knew after spending time in the minor leagues and over, my first several months and my first year, you start to figure out like the guys that are serious and the guys that are not serious.
So what would be your highlight of your career? Do you remember a moment in your career that was like just you'll remember for the rest of your life?
Oh man. Um,
Or one of them?
I mean, there's a lot of things that fall on that list, I mean, that first opportunity that you get drafted, you're like, whoa, wow, I was drafted by the New York Yankees, man. That's cool. And in that moment that, my career at a young age was kind of up and down because I had some injuries and I had some stuff that kind of happened throughout my minor league career. But the opportunity, your first opportunity to get to go to the big leagues and play in the major leagues is, you're like, man, like you put in all this time and all this effort of all these years and all the training and all the hours and all the things that you've done your entire life to prepare yourself for this one opportunity you don't want to mess up. And so so I remember that, and obviously being able to step on the field for the first time at the major leagues, and then there was obviously some things that happened throughout the career that were special for me. And I ended up spending time in San Francisco and Pittsburgh and Minnesota, and there's things that stand out. Some were great, some that were not so great that led to other things in your life or that. And then I ended up playing the 6 years in South Korea, and I had a lot of great things that happened to me there that were special. And I would say a lot of things really stick out there. That's where I started to grow my family. We had our first child there. Yeah, I mean, honestly, probably one of the most special times for me was my very first game back I was playing in the KBO, the Korean League, which we all are watching. Some people see it on ESPN right now. Is the very first game back after my first child, my daughter, was born, was one of my best games I've ever had in my entire life. And it was like, it was weird. I don't know if it was just like superhero kind of stuff, like super dad, like, man, I have this baby now and I'm awesome. And you almost lose all sense of caring about anything but your family and your child. And it's like, whatever, like, let's just go play. I'm just having fun. I'm excited. I'm going to go home and see my baby. And I remember that day I think I pitched like 8 1/3 or 8 2/3. I think I had like 15 strikeouts. And wow. I mean, it was just a game that I wish I had every time. And so that day really sticks out to me a lot, but a lot of special memories for sure.
So how is it pitching in in a big league field compared to like when you're in the US pitching compared to when you're pitching in Korea?
Uh, it's, you know, it's different depending on where you are, in the environment of the game, in which city you're in. Is it a rivalry game? Are you playing, and so, my very first game in the major leagues, I was in Pittsburgh. We weren't very good. We didn't, our fan base was low because we were losing a bunch of games. So that experience on the fan side was not much there because we didn't have much. And then I get a chance to go to, let's fast forward. I go to Minnesota, had some time there. Fast forward to go to San Francisco in 2012. I spent time there in San Francisco. I mean, they had sold out that stadium for just years, on years. Every game is a sold out game. And so now you're in front of 50,000 people in San Francisco. That environment's incredible. But what I can say is when you in the KBO, especially in a big game atmosphere there. The stadiums are 20, 25,000 people stadiums, but their environment there is absolutely incredible. They're so loud. They dance, they're screaming, they're yelling, they're having a great time. And those memories of playing in those stadiums there just for me were so much the noise level was so much higher. And most of the time as an athlete, you'll hear most athletes say like, I don't remember hearing the crowd. It's like these guys in the NBA shooting these free throws and stuff. And you see people screaming behind the goal and they're just draining them, and it's like the fans are basically wasting their time because the athlete never sees them. And so I can say in the KBO, when I was there in let's just say a big playoff rivalry game sold out. I mean, it was just so loud. I mean, you almost couldn't hear yourself think. So the environment there, I would say, was always a little higher, especially in big games.
So could you actually hear people screaming at you? Like if someone is just saying bad things or good things, could you actually hear that when you're pitching?
What's funny is you hear it when there's not a big crowd, but when there's a big crowd, it all blends together, And
Mm.
so when it's a small crowd and you hear people stand out more, Um, in the major league stadiums, you don't hear it as much because usually you have a pretty decent crowd even when the attendance is down. But yeah, I mean, you get in some of those minor league stadiums at times when there's not any fans and you get somebody screaming, yeah, you hear every word.
Okay, cool. So now we're going to fast forward to real estate. So tell me what made you want to get into real estate, what brought you to Compass. Just tell me your journey there.
Well, I have always had interest in everything that kind of is around and revolves around real estate. From a mind standpoint, I am driven on, as an artist, right? And so even from my baseball game, like everything was an art for me, like how I pitched, how I threw a ball, how it moved, everything was an art. And I had always had some abilities from a artist standpoint that always led me to be so interested in design and the understanding of how to build and some of those things that just kind of fall into our real estate category. And I had started doing some investing as an investor. Even when I was playing, I had done some stuff like that. I wasn't real hands on, but I started to kind of follow it a little bit. And I always wanted to do some remodeling and stuff. And so I started dabbling in that a little bit towards the end of my career. And then I knew when I was done, I was going to get my real estate license. I thought kind of early on that I was just going to get my license just to have my license to buy and sell and invest and those type of things. But I realized in my personality that I really clicked with others and being around other people. And I felt like I brought value to other people. And so I ended up getting my license towards the very end of my career. I started taking all my classes and got all that done. And I went ahead and got my license. And the compass thing, I kind of fell into it a little bit just because the team that I had joined had just recently joined Compass.
Mhm.
And I remember the day that I got my license, I had called a friend of mine that was an agent, and he said, "Hey, let's grab lunch real quick, and I just want to tell you kind of what's going on with us." And he started telling me about Compass and said that they had just switched to Compass. I don't even know if they had onboarded at the time, but they had this agreement set in place to join Compass. And so I go home and do my research, and I'm watching these videos and I'm listening to Refkin talk, and it just sounds so awesome. I'm like, this is right up my alley. This is amazing. A technology company, with all the design aspect and all this cool stuff. I'm like, yeah, done. I'm sold, right? Um, and so I jumped on board right away. And when I first got on board, I was still kind of, you know, uh, playing. I was still playing ball, and I obviously I couldn't get into Compass as an individual agent because I didn't have the production, which I don't care to be an individual agent because that's just not me. I wanted to be on a team. I wanted to be able to be with others and collaborate with others and brainstorm and pick each other's brains and help other agents. And so that was important to me to be on a team. And so then when baseball kind of just fiddled out, and it didn't just come to an end for me. A lot of guys, it just comes to an end. For me, it just kind of slowly fell off, which was nice actually. So I was able to just kind of transition into real estate, and then kind of fast forward to today. I just kind of been doing my hustle, and just build my business. I guess I'll back up one step here. Is when I first got into real estate, since first joined Compass, I was still dabbling a little bit in baseball. I was still kind of had this baseball in my mind. So I was able to, my first several months, I was able to learn the Compass tools and the website, and, learn the marketing center and understand how concierge and all our bridge loans and all these things work. I was educating myself before I was ever even getting any business. And so I tell people I was fortunate, right? Not a lot of people get that opportunity. A lot of people jump right into Compass and they have business, and they don't get a chance to learn Compass because they're having to help all their clients, which is great. But for me, I was able to learn Compass and learn our tools before I hit the field of really being able to, you know, help others and clients. So I feel like overall, like I've got a pretty good grip of Compass and what Compass is about and our tools. And so walking into listing appointments and meeting with others, it just became natural.
Cool. So share with us about your team.
Yeah, so I'm with the Pastana Group here. We are based out of South Lake, and in the South Lake office here, we are, man, I can't even keep count. I think we've got what, 8 people in our group now, full time or transaction kind of coordinator that kind of handles all the back end stuff, which is great because as an agent, I love to get out there and hustle and just take care of clients and stuff, and just have somebody to be able to help out with all the paperwork stuff. Not that I can't do the paperwork stuff, but it's just something I'd rather just be able to just go right and help somebody get in a house, and help somebody get a house ready for the market and stuff. Like that's my mind's like, I'm seeing stuff, let's do this, let's do that.
So
Yeah,
I
high
want to
production
interrupt you
group
a
here.
second. For people that don't know where South Lake is, tell us where that is.
Yeah, so South Lake, we're about 25 minutes from downtown Dallas. Right, some people may be familiar with DFW Airport, so we're literally 5-10 minutes from DFW, depending on where you are in South Lake. But our Compass office is right off 114. You jump on 114, you're at the airport in probably 5 minutes. So really, very well located within Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We cover all of Dallas-Fort Worth. I talk to other agents across Compass, and they'll say, well, where's South Lake? Is that Dallas? And this, yeah, well, we cover all Dallas Fort Worth. And man, that's the great thing about being with the team, right? So we have the agents to kind of cover the wide range area. So yeah, South Lake is it's a nationally ranked school district. It's one of the top sports programs from a high school standpoint across the country. Very well known area.
So I know you work with a lot of athletes and stuff, and being a former athlete, do you think that gives you an edge over others?
Um, I don't know if I say it gives you an edge. I think it's just my niche, you know. It's what I know. It's where I've come from. I think that I think it's gives me the drive and all the things that I've taught myself on my routines and all that. I'm able to just relate that to real estate with a little twist to it, right? It's amazing how it does relate so much on the consistency, you know. And I tell people all the time, they say like, well, you know, what, how do you become the best at something? And I said, well, look, here's the deal. Like your consistency is what's going to make you successful. And being consistent doesn't have to be, you don't have to be the best at being consistent. You could be, you could be a mess, but as long as you're consistently a mess and you have some type of standard to that, then it's fine, right? So I tell people all the time, it's like if you create something and you have this routine set in place, and it's like whatever it is, it's a, you know, if you wake up at 7 and you drink your coffee and you have your breakfast and you do your workouts or whatever your daily routine is, and if you have a routine of what you do, let's just say you get a lead and you're talking to a client or and you're taking your notes, however you take your notes, just be consistent to how you do your notes. Don't do it this way and this way and this way, because when your business gets out of control and you get off track, if you don't have a something that you know works for you that you can get back to, it's very difficult and you'll get lost and you'll get in these slumps. And it's the same thing with sports is if you don't have a way of knowing what makes you successful, right? What makes me successful is this, this, and this. And if you don't know what makes you successful and you get in those slumps, it's hard to get out of those slumps. And it's like, you know, as a pitcher, if I have a bad game, I want to have one bad game, maybe two bad games. I don't want to have three, four, five bad games. And it's the same thing in real estate. If I had a bad week, I don't want that bad week to turn into two, three, four, and all of a sudden I've had 2 or 3 months go by and I'm lost. I'm like, man, I have to get back on track. So you have to find a way to be consistent with what you do.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And I guess to be successful, especially in sports, you have to. So as far as real estate, I remember you told me this, and I know you go way, way above what most people do. I think you flew once to meet a customer, right? You took a flight to meet a customer.
I did. Yeah. So long story short, it was an athlete that was from South Korea, a pro baseball player, and he had landed a deal with Toronto, and I had a connection there with his agency and all that. And so I reached out and I said, hey, is there anything I can do to help you guys? Right. I know he has this huge transition. He's got a family, what can I do to help? And so they said, well, we want to look at some places in Toronto. And this is what's awesome about the Compass Connection, right? So, I was able to jump on Workplace. And even though we don't have offices in Toronto, I was able to throw it on Workplace and say, hey, is there anybody that can help me out? And within minutes, had a recommendation of somebody to reach out to. I make the phone call, boom, there we are. I've got a connection, right? And it happened so quickly. It was right around Christmas time. If I remember right off the top of my head, I want to say it may have been the 26th. I think it may have been the day after. They called and they said, well, actually we're flying in and, can you help us out? And I said, well, sure. I said, well, how about this? How about I fly out there to help you guys? And they said that would be awesome, right? So there you got the language barrier, you've got the culture difference, and I knew because of myself and living there, I knew that I was going to be able to bridge that gap for them, and I knew that if I would go over and beyond to make them comfortable, they had a much better chance of something good happening for them because it can be super uncomfortable. And so I flew out and was able to navigate the whole deal. And I worked with the agent out of Toronto, and we came up with the game plan, and she put the houses together and she put the schedule together, and I presented it to the clients and did the communication. I was kind of the middleman on the communication, and it turned out to be a nice. It worked out great. Fast forward, we ended up the baseball season got delayed, and you had the coronavirus, and you had all the stuff going
Right.
on. So obviously, the concept of what we wanted to accomplish didn't come together yet. It's actually still in the works, but yes, I jumped on an airplane to help a client.
That's awesome. So it's been awesome talking to you. Is there anything that you'd like to share that maybe I didn't go over, or how people can contact you, they can reach you? Anything you'd like to share?
It's the same thing I tell clients. I'm easy to get a hold of, and I feel like to be successful in this business, that's one of the main things. It's responding and being available. So text, an email, a phone call, social media post, a tag, a DM, it doesn't matter. Like, I answer them all. Um, so yeah, I mean, and if I can be any help in the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex, I mean, it can be anywhere around Dallas Fort Worth. I'm happy to help. And under the circumstance that we live right now, I actually have been helping several clients that have been moving in from out of town. I actually have a deal under contract right now that the client's never seen the house in person. I've done everything on FaceTime. I've showed it on FaceTime a couple of times. We did the inspection on FaceTime. Actually, speaking of that, we're against the clock today on our option period down here. So we got that going on. So we're working on some repairs and things going on in the middle of this contract. But yeah, I mean, I think I bring a lot of value to people that are moving in. I mean, sure, I can bring value to people here, but people outside the city, because of everything that I've done in my career already in the past, of moving here and going here and picking up and moving your stuff. Like, I get it. Like, I know how complicated that is. And so being able to help somebody just up front without them having to ask all those questions, being able to just have it already there for them so they don't have to ask, it makes them really, really comfortable. So yeah, I mean, if I can be any assistance, if we can be any assistance down here, easy to get a hold of here. Eric.hacker at Compass. Yeah, I mean, I'm always available. So let me know. I see the posts pop up on Workplace sometimes at 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I'm sitting there, I'm trying to get in touch with the agent. I'm looking at the clock, and I'm like, yeah, they might be asleep. So how about I might want to be careful, but yeah, I'm probably too available for some people.
Cool. So I'll leave your the best way to contact you, your social, because your Instagram's pretty cool to follow. And thanks so much for joining me today, Eric, and hope you guys enjoyed our interview.
And man, I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure on my end, man. I love watching what you guys do. You guys are always hustling. So I really appreciate you guys, and I look forward to next time.
Thanks so much. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.